My name is Elena Barayar. I'm 38 years old, and 6 months ago, I watched my career die in a windowless office while the head of HR slid a folder across the table and said the words, "We're letting you go." They didn't even look me in the eye. I was a nurse for 16 years. I gave everything I had to the job, the night shifts, the vomit, the screaming families, the overtime I never got paid for. I stayed through staff shortages, COVID, the suicide of 2 colleagues, and a miscarriage I had between rounds. But none of that mattered the day that patient died. They said it was my fault, that I missed the signs, that I was distracted. What they didn't say out loud but made sure to whisper behind closed doors was that I must have been slipping, that maybe it was time for me to step away. They stripped my badge. They erased my access. They told me it was for the best. And the person who filed the report that sealed it? My best friend, my maid of honor, my lunch break soul sister, Cassidy Wells. I found out 2 weeks later that she was fucking my husband. They thought I wouldn't know, that I'd just unravel and disappear. They were half right. I did disappear, but not to cry, not to recover. I disappeared to prepare. Let me tell you exactly how a woman like me gets her life stolen in pieces and how she takes it all back with surgical precision. Cassidy and I met in the nurse's break room 12 years ago. She had perfect teeth, a laugh like a drunk Barbie doll, and the kind of lazy ambition that makes you useful but never threatening. She knew how to flirt with doctors, how to spin mistakes into misunderstandings, how to always get assigned the patients that were easiest to manage. But we got close. God help me, I trusted her. My husband, Marcus, met her at a Christmas party 3 years ago. He said she was funny as hell. I said she was dangerous. He laughed. Now I wonder how long they'd been sleeping together. Before or after she told the board, I gave the wrong dose. The patient was named Harold Kinley, 72, diabetic, post-op. He went into cardiac arrest 2 hours after I gave him his meds. But I checked that dose 5 times. I even documented it. Someone edited the chart. I wasn't just framed. I was set up. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was biblical. I was Eve, and the snake had tits, manicured nails, and access to my home. So I vanished. I dyed my hair, sold my car, and moved 3 towns over. I changed my name. I deleted every social media account. For 3 months, I worked as a waitress in a bar where no one asked questions. Then I applied to the same hospital system under a new identity, Lana Reed. There are 100 nurses on rotation. HR barely glances at resumes. I used a fake employment history, forged credentials. You think they check? They don't. They're desperate, understaffed. I walked in wearing scrubs and a calm voice and got the job in 2 weeks. Same hospital, different floor. I was back. Not to heal. To haunt. I spent the first week studying the chessboard. Nothing dramatic, just slow steps. Cassidy still worked here, of course. Now in charge of scheduling. Cute. Marcus? Still married. To me, technically. I never signed the papers. He just assumes the process is done, assumes I crawled away to some sad hole, shivering and alone. He doesn't know that every Thursday night, I sit in the back of his gym in a baseball cap, watching him struggle through reps with that ego still swollen. He's slower now. I wonder if she makes him eat keto. The patient I was accused of killing, Harold, turns out his son is a lawyer. Filed a wrongful death lawsuit after my termination. The hospital quietly settled, and Cassidy got a raise. Now you understand why I came back. They ruined my name, my record, my peace. I won't ruin theirs. I'll dismantle it. The first thing I did was take inventory of Cassidy's weaknesses. She hates confrontation. She drinks cheap wine. She uses the same password for everything, Cass Thrills. And she's still seeing Marcus. I confirmed that last one on day 10. I waited until I knew she'd gone into her usual break room nap around 3:30 p.m. I took her phone from her purse, used her fingerprint while she slept, scrolled the messages. Marcus, can't stop thinking about last night. You wore me out. Still smell like you. You'll smell me again tomorrow. Same time, same place. I smiled, locked the screen, put it back. Didn't need to read anymore. I had all I needed. Phase 1 was information. Phase 2 would be disruption. I started small, scheduling inconsistencies, chart errors. I didn't forge anything. I just highlighted what was already sloppy. Cassidy had a habit of signing off on meds she didn't double check. One night, I left a sticky note on the supervisor's desk. Multiple logins under Cassidy Wells's ID after hours. Someone should verify her work. 2 days later, she was called into a protocol review. She blamed the system. I watched her stutter from the hallway. Then came Marcus. I sent him flowers. From C. He called her confused. She said she didn't send anything. He got paranoid, accused her of playing games. She denied it, said he must have misunderstood. Then I left a hotel key in his gym locker. Room 406. He went, waited. No one showed. Next day, I left a printed screenshot of their texts in Cassidy's office mailbox. I didn't sign it. Didn't have to. That night, she showed up to work puffy-eyed. Marcus didn't answer her calls. One of the nurses found her crying in the stairwell. I offered her tea. She didn't recognize me. That's the funny thing about changing your hair and voice and posture. People see what they expect. And no one expects the ghost of the woman you buried to hand you chamomile. But Cassidy wasn't my only target. Remember Harold Kinley, the patient they blamed me for? Turns out the attending doctor that night, Dr. Soren Blake, never read my report, never responded to my page, never showed up when I needed sign-off on that dosage. He said he was in surgery, but he wasn't. I checked the logs. He was logged into a dating app 17 minutes before Harold flatlined. So now I had my next name and another phase to plan. They thought they saw the worst of me the day I got fired. What they don't know is that I was still playing by the rules. Now, I'm rewriting the entire playbook, one lie at a time. Infection control. I used to believe justice happened in a courtroom. Now I know it happens in the quiet, in shifts, in small, undetectable doses, like a slow-moving infection that doesn't trigger symptoms until it's too late. That's how I describe what I was doing now. I wasn't fighting back. I was spreading. The first time I saw Dr. Soren Blake after I returned, I nearly lost my composure. He walked like nothing had happened, like he wasn't responsible for ignoring my page the night Harold Kinley died. Like he didn't lie during the inquest and say I never contacted him. Like he wasn't partly responsible for everything I'd lost. Slicked back hair, new watch, laughing with the interns. He didn't remember me. Why would he? Nurses are interchangeable to men like him. Replaceable, forgettable, invisible until you mess something up or make them look bad. He wasn't expecting one to come back with a new name and a loaded plan. I started slow. I observed his habits. Soren worked cardio rotation Monday through Thursday. Liked to end rounds early so he could hit the golf simulator in the staff gym. He never locked his office. The password on his desktop was Soren123. It took me less than 3 minutes to access his internal case notes. I wasn't looking for gossip. I was looking for patterns. And I found them. Patient complaints that never made it to records. Pages accidentally marked as read. One patient's wife wrote a full email describing how he left a sponge in during a routine port placement. The hospital paid her off. Buried it. I printed the email. Placed it in a manila folder labeled Internal Audit Private. Left it on the desk of a department head with sticky notes attached. Pattern? Maybe. Someone should verify his caseload from Q2. I watched her read it from the hallway. I didn't stay for the fallout. I just walked away and went to check on an elderly woman who needed her oxygen repositioned. Balance, you see? They play God. I just remind them there's a hell. Cassidy, meanwhile, had gotten paranoid. I could feel it in the break room. She jumped every time the office line rang, snapped at a CNA for misplacing a clipboard, reapplied lip gloss 3 times during a 15-minute shift change. She was unraveling. I made sure to give her reasons to. It started with the nurse roster. I'd gotten into her admin login weeks ago. I moved her from her usual 7 a.m. 3 p.m. slot to 11 a.m. 7 p.m., then back again. Switched her day off. Took her off lunch coverage last minute. She started showing up late, confused, disheveled. They wrote her up twice. The third time, she confronted the charge nurse in tears. I was standing just 2 feet away. You think I'm making this up? I know I entered it right. Someone's messing with the system. Oh, really? The charge nurse said. Who? IT? Cassidy looked at me. I tilted my head, smiled. Need help resetting your password? She just blinked. Didn't say anything. I went back to prepping insulin. Then came Marcus. Poor dumb Marcus. I didn't need to destroy him. He'd do it himself. I just had to point him in the right direction. I created a burner email. Sent an anonymous tip to his manager about possible inappropriate messages exchanged with a vendor rep during work hours. Attached, one of Cassidy's screenshots with his full name and timestamp intact. He was suspended pending investigation. Cassidy tried to call him 27 times that day. I know because I cloned her call log from a duplicate SIM I set up using her ID scan and some patient registration software. She cried in the parking garage for 40 minutes. I know because I watched from the security monitors. The IT guy lets me use the console sometimes. I told him I used to work facilities. He doesn't ask questions. He just likes the attention. That weekend, I sent Cassidy a message. Plain envelope. No return address. Inside, a photograph. A printed, zoomed-in shot of her and Marcus kissing in the stairwell on May 9th, the same day she swore under oath that they hadn't been together since my departure. On the back, I wrote one sentence. Perjury is a funny thing. So is karma. I heard she called out sick for 2 days. Soren, meanwhile, had his own spiral. I watched from the staff lounge as he was called into a compliance meeting. He looked cocky walking in, looked furious walking out. He ran his hand through his hair 3 times, kicked the door on his way to the elevator. Later that week, he started checking over his shoulder when he thought no one was watching. He was starting to feel it, the itch of accountability creeping in. And I wasn't even halfway done. But the hospital was starting to notice me. I was helpful, polite, efficient. I stayed late, took difficult patients, never complained. One of the nurse managers asked me if I'd consider moving up. I told her I wasn't looking for power, just purpose. She said that's rare. Most of the girls here are either climbing or hiding. I nodded. I'm just doing what I was trained for. She smiled. Didn't know she was talking to the woman they tried to bury 6 months ago. Then I found something that made my stomach twist. Buried in a report I pulled from the internal database was a name I didn't expect. Dana Rizzo. Dana was the new grad who started 6 weeks before Harold Kinley died. Sweet girl. Nervous but careful. Always double-checking. She was shadowing me that week. I hadn't seen her after the inquest. She left nursing entirely. In her exit statement, she wrote, "I'm not strong enough for this field. I saw what happened to Nurse Breyer, and I don't want to end up like her. It wasn't her fault. I know what I saw, but no one would listen." They ignored it. They filed it, archived it, moved on. Now I couldn't. I printed it, and I mailed it to the board. With a note, "Funny how you missed this. Or maybe you didn't. No return address." But they'd know. I wanted them to wonder who else had been paying attention. Marcus finally cracked. He showed up at the hospital, not to visit Cassidy, to confront her. In the parking lot, public, he screamed. She slapped him. Security had to intervene. I watched the video footage twice, saved it to a drive. Cassidy was placed on temporary leave. Marcus was served with an official restraining order from the hospital grounds. I made tea again that night. For myself. Chamomile. That week, they brought in someone from an external ethics committee to audit the staff's behavior and evaluate potential process failures. Her name was Meredith Temple. She wore gray suits and no perfume, took notes with a fountain pen, asked hard questions. I liked her instantly because I knew what she was really there to do. Clean house, the kind of cleaning that starts with asking about old mistakes. She came to interview me on a Tuesday. "Lana Reed?" she asked, flipping through her notes. "You started here 4 months ago?" "Yes," I said. "How have you found the culture?" I paused. "Cautious," I said, like everyone's trying not to step on something they buried. She looked at me carefully, then nodded. "Thank you." Before she left, I slipped a flash drive into her folder. It had copies of the forged dosage report from Harold's case, time logs, and login discrepancies. No commentary. No accusations. Just the truth. She'd know what to do with it. At home, I opened my drawer of evidence. It was full now. Photos, emails, copies of records, audio files, each one labeled with a name. I stared at the last label I hadn't touched yet. Mine, Elena Breyer. I still hadn't decided what to do with her. Did I bring her back, let her sue, reclaim her name? Or did I leave her buried and keep haunting these halls as Lana Reed? I wasn't sure yet, but I had time. And I had more names, because justice doesn't come all at once. It drips in slowly, methodically, deliberately. And I was still in control of the IV line, the break code. You can learn everything about a person by watching how they take their break. Some people use it to breathe. Others use it to vent. A few, like the ones you should fear, use it to watch, to listen, to record. I became that last kind. Break time at the hospital was chaos. Phones still rang. Patients still coded. But for 15-minute intervals, people dropped their masks. Nurses gossiped. Texts scrolled. Residents confessed things they'd never put in an email. You'd be amazed how much people reveal when they think no one's listening. And I was always listening. That's how I learned about Tessa Finch. She was new. Floated between pediatrics and orthopedics. Cute, early 30s, hair always in a ponytail that said, "I have no time for anything but this job." She looked like the kind of nurse who double-charted for safety and apologized to parents even when they were wrong. One day, I walked into the break room and heard her crying softly into her granola bar. No one noticed. I sat 2 chairs away, pretended to scroll my phone, listened. He said if I brought it up again, he'd write me up for insubordination. She whispered. Another nurse mumbled something I couldn't make out. Tessa sniffed. I didn't even accuse him of anything. I just said I saw the vial in his locker. I didn't know it was that serious. The other nurse leaned in, eyes wide. You mean like morphine? Tessa nodded, and then the other nurse did what people always do when they're scared. They changed the subject. I didn't. By 4 p.m., I knew who she was talking about. Dr. Cavan Kerr, an ER attending. Handsome, arrogant, known for dating interns and getting away with things he shouldn't. He was on duty that night when Harold Kinley died. I'd flagged his name once in my notes, but hadn't focused on him. Until now. I pulled his narcotics log. There were gaps, nothing definitive, just discrepancies, missing milligrams, timing mismatches. I asked Tessa casually 2 days later during a supply restock, "Hey, who does your meds double check on nights?" She looked spooked. Why? I shrugged. Just curious. I had a patient last week who swore he was given a second pain shot, but the log only showed one. Tessa looked at me for a long moment, then said, "That happens more than people admit." I nodded. Bet it does. She didn't know I was arming her. Cassidy returned to work the following Monday. Her eyes were glassy, her voice brittle. Her lipstick was darker than usual, a color that tried to say she was okay when everything else screamed she wasn't. She avoided the break room now. Avoided me too. But that didn't save her. Because while she was gone, I had planted something. A small USB, hidden in the vent of her office computer. Nothing malicious. Just a script that duplicated any file she accessed and mirrored it to a drive I kept hidden inside a janitor's closet. Every time she opened a schedule, a report, a conversation thread, I saw it too. I was her shadow now, watching every move. That's how I found the file. It was titled Re Elena Breyer Risk Packet. She had saved it. Why? I don't know. Guilt? Insurance? I opened the copy on my own drive and read every line. Emails between her and legal, drafts of testimony, a PDF of the internal decision tree they used to fire me. All of it based on a forged timestamp. One that couldn't have existed because the monitor I charted from that night was out of service. There was even a side message. Should we report that the machine wasn't logging properly? If this gets out, we may look like we ignored a systems failure. Cassidy had replied, "Too late. We've already issued the termination. Just move forward." I stared at the screen. No remorse. No hesitation. Just a decision to destroy a life and keep walking. That night, I took a small detour. I went home, opened a secure connection, and submitted an anonymous whistleblower complaint to the State Board of Nursing. I attached the PDF, the timestamp logs, the device failure report. I didn't mention my name. Didn't need to. Cassidy's name was all over it. Dr. Soren Blake was next. His attitude hadn't changed. Still smug, still careless. He had a resident named Nina he was clearly sleeping with. I didn't care until I saw him alter her progress notes to make her look more competent. He approved her work even when she skipped steps. She would never survive a real trauma code. And she didn't know that yet. But he did. So I left a copy of her unsigned medication error report on the desk of the medical director, along with a note, she's gonna kill someone, and he's letting her. No signature. No need. It was all true. Meanwhile, Tessa had grown bold. She filed a quiet report about missing narcotics. Cavan was offended, claimed she was retaliating after he gave her a low evaluation. HR opened a case. It wouldn't go far. But that wasn't the point. The point was, now his name had a stain. And once there's a stain, the fabric never looks the same again. The hospital buzzed with rumors. Staff were whispering about a rat, someone leaking info to compliance. Suspicion turned everyone paranoid. Cassidy stopped using her office. Soren triple-checked his door locks. Cavan stopped taking breaks altogether. But me, I smiled, because none of them had figured it out. Not yet. Then one day, I found something I didn't expect. A voicemail. Left on my burner phone. One only Cassidy had ever texted for shift swaps. I played it 3 times to be sure. It was her voice. Shaky. Tight. I know someone's watching me. I think it's Elena. I don't know how, but things keep happening. Things only she would know. If you're hearing this, I just want you to know I'm sorry. I didn't think it would get this far. She didn't hang up right away. Just stayed silent. Breathing. Then, click. I sat there staring at the phone. Not out of guilt. Out of calculation. Because now I knew 2 things. She was cracking. She still didn't know for sure it was me, which meant the game was still mine. Later that night, I saw Marcus. He was in the parking lot outside the gym, talking to someone through his car window. A woman. Not Cassidy. Not anyone I recognized. They kissed. He drove off. She watched him go. Cassidy had already imploded her life for him. And now he'd already replaced her. I took a picture, not for leverage, just for closure. That week, the hospital held a staff meeting about internal accountability culture. It was full of HR jargon and performative concern. The chief of staff made a speech, said things like values alignment and transparent protocol review. They passed out anonymous feedback forms. I filled mine out carefully. You can't fix a system built on fear. Start by replacing the people who made fear the culture. Start with Cassidy Wells. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I wasn't the only one who wrote her name. Cassidy didn't come to work the next day. Or the day after that. Word spread she was on personal leave. Her files were locked. Her desk emptied. A week later, her name was removed from the admin schedule system. No ceremony. No announcement. Just gone. Like she'd never been there at all. Poetic. I went to the old stairwell where she and Marcus used to meet, sat on the step. Let the silence wash over me. And then I whispered to no one, "She's gone. You're next." Because Soren was still practicing. Cavan was still prescribing. And the people who'd covered it all up still drew paychecks. But their time was coming. They'd just triggered the break code. And I was the virus they'd never trace. Exhibit C. The day I became Exhibit C started like any other. A nurse calling in sick, another stuck in traffic, and a coffee machine that coughed out more grounds than brew. But by 10:07 a.m., my name was on a clipboard I wasn't supposed to see, next to the phrase, "Subject to review." I knew the format. I'd seen it before. Years ago, I'd sat through staff briefings where nurses were flagged for low patient satisfaction scores or questionable charting. The review forms were always casual enough to feel harmless, until they weren't. The moment your name hit that list, you were no longer a person. You were a case, a liability, a number. So I smiled, because it meant I was getting close. I had spent weeks sewing chaos into their seams, and now the seams were starting to fray. Cassidy was gone. Cavan was walking on eggshells. Soren was under review by internal audit, and I had successfully turned the hospital into a building-sized guilt trap. But someone upstairs had finally noticed the pattern, and now they wanted to know who was pulling the thread. So they made me Exhibit C. I needed to move faster. The review panel was scheduled for Friday. 3 days. Which meant I had 72 hours to burn the rest of it down. I started with the pharmacy logs. I pulled 2 months' worth of IV medication reports and cross-checked them against shift assignments. It didn't take long to find the issue. Meds being signed off under IDs of staff who weren't present, at least 6 times, under Cavan's code. I printed the logs, marked them with a red pen, left them inside the chief pharmacist's inbox. Next, Soren. I accessed his surgery schedule, confirmed 3 conflicts where he approved a discharge while listed as in procedure. I took screenshots, highlighted the timestamps. Then I visited Meredith, our no-nonsense ethics officer. "Got a minute?" I asked. She looked up from her desk. "Always." I handed her a file. Said nothing. She opened it, flipped through the evidence, stiffened. "Where did this come from?" she asked. "Let's just say I've been paying attention." She gave me a look. "Lena, you know if you're involved." "I'm not. I'm just tired of watching people get away with things that bury good nurses." She nodded slowly. "I'll handle this." I trusted her. Or at least I trusted her need to maintain her reputation. Same difference. By Thursday night, rumors were back. Someone in admin had been suspended. Someone else was taking a break. A new whisper joined the mix. The hospital was about to be investigated by an outside agency. And still, no one suspected Lana Reed, because she was too quiet, too helpful, too perfect, exactly the kind of woman no one watches. Exactly the kind of woman who walks into the lion's den with a scalpel and leaves with fur under her nails. Friday arrived. I wore navy scrubs, no makeup, hair tied back. I sat in the waiting room for my review, clipboard on my lap, pen between my fingers, back straight, calm. When they called me in, the panel was already seated. HR, compliance, my direct supervisor, and Meredith. They started soft. "How are you adjusting? Any concerns? Anything you'd like to bring up?" I answered everything politely. Then Meredith leaned forward. "We've had some activity in our systems. Documents flagged, anonymous reports. Do you know anything about that?" I looked at her and smiled. I think people are tired of pretending they don't see what's happening around them. No one said anything. "I don't know who's submitting the reports," I continued, "but if I did, I'd say they're probably someone who's been watching this hospital ignore things for years. Someone who finally realized that silence is just a slow death." Meredith blinked, then nodded. The rest of the panel scribbled notes. And just like that, the interview ended. I wasn't reprimanded. I wasn't praised. I was noted. Filed away, marked, still Exhibit C. But now they knew better than to ignore what came next. That night, I burned the last of the files I'd printed. Watched them curl to ash in a cheap metal trash can behind the building. I didn't need them anymore, because the truth was already moving through the halls like smoke. No one knew where it started. No one knew where it would end. But everyone could feel it coming. And I was already preparing my next incision. The sharpest tool. There's a reason surgeons don't flinch when they cut someone open. It's not because they're cold. It's because they've already decided the body deserves to be saved. Or sacrificed. Same thing in revenge. You make the cut because it has to be done. Because you've studied it, trained for it, committed to it. Not because you feel nothing, but because you finally feel everything. And now I was ready for my deepest incision yet. The week after my review, 2 things happened. 1, Cavan was suspended pending a full investigation. 2, Cassidy emailed the board of directors. I wasn't supposed to see it, but a friend in admin had quietly forwarded it to me. The subject line read, False accusations and unlawful surveillance. Inside, Cassidy claimed she had been targeted, manipulated, and digitally harassed by someone she believed to be a former coworker who had returned under a new identity. She didn't name me, but the implication was clear. She was flailing, trying to claw her way back into relevance, or maybe into revenge of her own. The board didn't respond. They didn't need to, because as far as they were concerned, Cassidy Wells was already a ghost, and I was the haunting she left behind. I kept my head down. On paper, I was the perfect nurse. Showed up early, stayed late, no complaints, no gossip, no fingerprints. But in the shadows, I was building my final case. Every system had a weakness. Soren's was ego. Kavan's was recklessness. Cassidy's was control. The board's? Optics. They didn't care what happened as long as it didn't look bad. So I gave them a reason to look closer. I mailed an envelope to a healthcare investigative journalist who had once profiled a nurse whistleblower in Chicago. No return address. Inside, timelines, witness names, falsified data logs, and a summary of patient deaths linked to administrative negligence. At the top of the folder, I wrote one sentence. The hospital knew. They chose silence. I included one name, Meredith Temple. Not as a villain, as a witness. She'd already proven herself credible. And when the storm hit, I wanted someone trustworthy on the inside. 2 weeks passed. Then the article dropped. Front page of a health watchdog site. Headline, Cover Up at West Haven Hospital. Internal documents point to years of misconduct, retaliation, and fraud. Names weren't used. But details were. Readers connected dots. Employees whispered. The board panicked. An emergency meeting was called. Staff were told not to speak to press. But the damage was already done. They were bleeding out. And I hadn't even opened my scalpel case. Meredith found me in the hallway that Friday. She was pale. I need to ask you something, she said. I nodded. Did you send that article? No, I said, but I read it. She searched my face. They're coming after me. The board thinks I leaked the files. Did you? She hesitated. No, but I wish I had. That's when I gave her the drive. I had prepared it a month ago. It held every email, every timestamp, every patient error, and buried report I had found. All of it. If they come after you, I said, give them this. She took it. Hands trembling. I don't know who you are, she said, but thank you. I smiled. I'm the nurse you all thought wouldn't survive. Over the next 7 days, 2 board members resigned. A new internal investigation began. Meredith was cleared and promoted to acting chief ethics officer. And Soren Blake disappeared. No resignation letter. No goodbye. Just vanished. Rumor was he lawyered up. Cavan never came back. Cassidy tried again, emailed patients, even posted anonymously online. But no one believed her anymore. She had burned her own credibility. I didn't have to lift a finger. By the time the dust settled, the hospital announced new training protocols, transparency reforms, and leadership transitions. No mention of Elena Breyer, and that was fine, because I wasn't coming back. I had done what I came to do, not just expose them. I had reshaped them, cut away the rot, forced them to look at the infection they had ignored. And now maybe, just maybe, some good nurses could survive. Maybe some patients would live. Maybe I wasn't just a ghost. Maybe I was the cure. Code silent. Some stories end with a scream. Mine ended with silence. Not the kind that follows trauma, the kind that comes after peace. The kind that tells you everything that needed to be said has already been heard. Every truth spoken. Every debt collected. I didn't expect that silence, but I earned it. The day I quit was a Tuesday. No drama. No letter. I handed in my badge, took one last look at the nursing board with all the pastel flyers and pinned thank you notes. Then I left. No one tried to stop me. No one even noticed. Perfect. 6 weeks passed. The fallout rippled. The hospital was under formal investigation. The media camped outside for days. A state health rep was brought in to audit. The new administration called it healing. But they didn't understand. Healing isn't clean. Healing leaves scars. I wasn't interested in watching them pretend to bandage what they'd spent years infecting. So I moved on. I rented a small cottage near the coast, not far from the sea. Quiet, cold air. It felt like being wrapped in gauze. Still, sterile, safe. I read books, took walks, slept without alarms. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch at the sound of an overhead page. One morning, I got a letter. No return address, no signature. Just a short, handwritten note. Thank you for the fire. We needed the light, M. I folded it, placed it inside the drawer with my old badge. That was the last I heard from Meredith. I had no interest in revenge anymore, not because I regretted it, but because it was done. I didn't destroy them. I unmasked them. I didn't kill anyone. I made them accountable. And if they ever rebuild what they lost, they'll do it on scorched earth. My earth. Sometimes when I hear sirens in the distance, I still feel the urge to move, to triage, to act. But I remind myself, not all wounds are mine to heal. Some are meant to hurt, and some people need to bleed, because that's how you learn to never cut someone like me again. My name is Elena Breyer, and this is the part of the story they'll never tell in staff meetings. But women like me? We don't need permission to write endings. We just need a reason. And they gave me plenty.